Right, there you go. It's a good evening from the studios in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. And Dreaming the New Dream is the show. And if you wish to watch the show afterwards, you're more than welcome. Hey, we're on Spotify, Amazon, Google, Apple, and iHeartRadio. So if you wish to participate in that, you can do that. In fact, on the weekend, I was told by someone who says, I listened to your show on a Friday on Spotify. I said, well, that's really nice. I've always learning something. And I had to be a function the week before, and someone said to me, I know you. And I said, do you? Turns out she'd been watching the shows. So without further ado, it's I'm passing it up to the top of the tree there with Andrena, and she's going to introduce you to our guest today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Good morning, everybody, or good evening, good day, and welcome to Dreaming the New Dream. And it's the 18th of April today, I believe. God, swiftly moving through these months. Anyway, it's my great pleasure to welcome Dr. Jo Whitaker on the show today. So welcome, Jo.
Thank you very much for inviting me on. I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you. So I saw you probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago. Time's moving so fast, I can't keep up with myself. At the Glastonbury Hum with Dr. Alex Ling. And so I met you there and I listened to your talk and I loved what you were sharing. So hence I asked you to come on the show to share all your knowledge and wisdom. So I know you've got lots and lots and lots to share, which is awesome. So I know you're all about you're a spiritual scientist and a water coach. So I hadn't really heard of a water coach before, apart from in the swimming baths. So I know you're on a different wavelength. But you're all about detoxing the body and the pineal gland, and you're all about water and different systems of water. So and removing emotional programs. So without further ado, I'm just going to hand it over to you because and I'll butt in when something's relevant. But yeah, would you like to start off how you started at the beginning? This brought you to this point in time now.
Yes, sure. Thank you for that introduction. It was an amazing event at the Glastonbury Hum. It was amazing. So if I think about my life's journey, I realised that it was probably very planned without me realising it. My first degree was in biological sciences. I specialised in genetics and microbiology. I then did oncology, which is cancer research. And then my PhD was in immunology, specialising in genetic therapies. Okay. But I never stayed in academia because something wasn't right with how careers progressed and who got the funding and what was being researched, right? And I saw this, but I also saw there was some great research happening. And I wanted to make sure that instead of just being a paper written in a dusty library somewhere, that something good would come out of it. And it could, lead to new inventions, new cures, new engineering and technology things. So I've been doing that my whole life across a broad range of disciplines. I've always been interested in technology. And at some point along the way, because you sit down a lot doing this kind of work, I decided to formalize my sport love, and I became a personal trainer. So I was coaching people one-to-one on how to physically improve their body. So I think by the time everything went crazy, the latter end of 2019, I had pretty much sorted out how to physically enhance my body, how to mentally, because I'm also like a boxing coach. I teach boxing. So I'm emotionally and psychologically very stable. And so I felt, wow, that's great. Physical, emotional, this kind of thing. And then when all the craziness happened, I realized I didn't know very much about the world at all. And one thing that I noticed was that everybody was talking about how intoxicated your body might be. And now I was really, really physically fit at that time, probably even in some ways did a lot more exercise than what I do now, although that's going to be changed with the summer, right? But I thought to myself, well, I look really physically fit. I do all this exercise. am I intoxicated? Am I full of toxins? And what would happen if I remove them? So I was looking into the food and the water that comes out of our taps and everything. And I started to detox, which was actually quite complicated because there were so many things. Oh, try this, or do this, and do this, and do this. And I'm like, oh. So it took me ages to research through all this stuff and realize a lot of these detoxing methods, they all work because we've all got different toxins in us. And they all take different methods to be able to pull these toxins out. So I came up with these capsules, which is like a broad spectrum anti-parasitic detox sort of. It helps your gut and all this kind of thing. And it's got black seed in, which I ground myself, the full seed, not the oil, brown cumin, nattokinase, which is actually found in great concentrations in dandelion root, milk thistle, and diatomaceous earth. Food grade without any of the heavy metals in before anybody sells. You can get clean diatomaceous earth. And I tried this for 3 months. And then one day, I realized my pineal gland had been cleansed. And I could only describe that because I was talking to people about detox. I felt a lot better, right? I had a lot more energy. My skin changed. I mean, I'm 50 this year, right? And the skin changed, everything. I just felt better. I was like, wow, I thought I was fit before, but now feel much more cleansed. And I was explaining this to somebody, and we was at this event, and I saw this lady with a crystal in her hand, and she was doing some crystal healing on somebody. And I said, wow, that looks amazing. How do you manage to get the light come out the crystal? And she said, what do you mean? I was like, it's like, have you got a torch? And she says, no. And the long and short of it was my pineal gland had cleansed. And all of a sudden I could see wavelengths, which I couldn't see before because I was intoxicated. Wow. And that, it's not like magic. I'm just like, my senses, detox. But during this whole journey, I can see there's lots of different products out there. And what I do is I try and help people go through this detox so that they can feel physically, mentally, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually better. Because when you clear your body, all of that fits in and comes into place. This is what I say. And what I'm seeing at the minute is people are going to supplements first. And I really say to people, the last thing you need to worry about is your supplements, because they can act like a toxin. The first place you start is cleansing, and the first place you start is with your water. And that's what I found is, as I was going through the detox with people, the most significant change people can make is with the water, and that's the most beneficial. So I just wanted to get this out there in case people don't know, because there's so much challenging information out there. And I think you just showed the great slide. Yeah, I mean, if we can go back to that slide. Yeah. So there is, you can read things like, say, on the NHS website about, and I don't want to get banned on this, but I just want you to see what is written out there about fluoride. Now, the first thing I need to say about fluoride isn't like a specific compound, right? You use the term fluoride like you're talking transport. It's a generic set of compounds. So if I was going to say, oh, I'm going to take transport to go to, Birmingham today, you wouldn't know if I'm going by tank, motorbike, or car. And this is the problem with that word fluoride. It's a very generic term. And so this is the first thing that I notice from a scientist point of view, is that this is both correct, but both on a lack of information. Because it's like, well, transport is a naturally occurring mineral. It's like, what? No, there are specific forms of fluoride found naturally. That isn't what's found in the water. And fluoride toothpaste is one of the most effective ways of preventing tooth decay. Is it? Where is this proof? And then when I've started to look at like community fluoridation, and then the studies that have been carried out, right? They're funded by the toothpaste companies. They're funded by the water companies. They're funded by the companies that supply the fluoride that go into the water. So I'm like, well, this isn't independent research, is it? So this is what I'm trying to point out now. If you want to do like the deep digging of this, and the links to the toxic effects, which is specifically combining fluoride and aluminium really calcifies your pineal gland, then this is published. So I'm not telling you something that isn't published. You can find this research and this effect of the brain and the links to all sorts of things. So these kind of websites are not helpful, and actually they're not even scientific what's being written here. So
yeah, say no more.
Yeah, so everybody knows. So we have to get that fluoride out. And, if you go to this website, this then links to newspaper articles, because it does get out there in the newspapers, actually. But also it links then to what's actually in tap water. And then there are studies done on what this means. And this is it actually even in mainstream media. So this is why they call it tap water and not drinking water. Because it'd be sued if they was going to call it drinking water, because it has to meet a certain quality. So this is, you look now at the marketing messages from your water companies. It says wonderful on tap in Severn Trent. This is fine.
Interesting, that, like you say, they call it tap water and not drinking water. And a lot of people don't click with that, do they?
Yes. And you can see what happens to your clothes, right? The color of your clothes. There's a lot of chlorine in water, and I'm going to go into that a little bit later on. Chlorine's really bad for you. But there's lots of pharmaceutical drugs and things like this. So, listen, I think everybody has the ability to heal. But if you don't know that, and if you're constantly bombarding yourself, it's very difficult to keep on top of it. So, but I think some studies, and some people that I know have done some studies on the water, and they've found like 330 different contaminants. And by the way, I know people also that have taken their tap water samples and asked universities to test it, and they won't do it. They don't want to do it. Right. So, and it's just ordinary people. Hello, my taxes go to funding blah blah blah. Please, can I use some of it for this? Oh, we can possibly look into that. So, yeah, something's going on, and. So I would say to people, the first thing you need to do is look at this, because it will change your life. It will change so many things about your life.
Hey, in London, don't they recycle the water 7 times? I mean, that recycling carries a lot of pathogens in it.
Well, you see, this is why they put the chlorine in, don't they? To kill all the pathogens. But actually, I would say one of the most terrible things about it, if you look actually when they started containing water rather than taking water out of the ground and taking it as it should be, which I'm going to go into a little bit here, right? It was in Sumerian times. That's when they started putting it in containers and making it kind of still and sitting and stagnant is always going to allow the buildup of pathogens, and that's why you put chlorine in. But it's a particular type of chlorine. Don't forget, a chlorine and chlorine compounds are a little bit like saying fluoride, and a little bit like the transport again. What type of chlorine are we talking about? Because we also know that chlorine dioxide and things can be very good for the body, but it depends on how these things are used. So maybe if you can go on to the next step, I'll go into this.
So for people that are, like, I know people that drink tap water, and I recognize people have choice, and then people moved on to the plastic jugs with the cartridge in. It's like I suppose that's the first step from getting them off of tap water and using a filter. But are these filters, because they're carbon, are they what would you recommend for a starter for somebody who says, well, I want to get off tap water?
Okay, so if you just go, if I just ask Jeffrey just to go along a little bit, I've got a little slide. And try the next one. There. Oh, are we going backwards or forwards? There should be one about the different types of way of clearing water, right? There's like you can do it filter. You can do it distiller. You can do it. Hang on. Find it in a minute. There, this one. Right. Okay. So there are some good filters and there are some great filters, right? It depends. Now, filtering will not get rid of pharmaceuticals. I have to tell people this right now. They can't do. But when you boil water above, say, 62.5 degrees, this is where you will find most biological compounds will just disintegrate. So if you just filtering your water, it will have pharmaceuticals in there that won't have degraded. But if you boil a kettle and then put it through a filter, it will. Zero water seems to be one of the best water filters out there. But I would say my experience in Nottingham, which is heavily contaminated, is it gets rid of about half of the total dissolved solids in the water. And it says zero, right? I haven't found a water filter that completely, in my area, it's got a lot of toxins in, removes all of this out. And Brita, in my experience, hardly does anything. Right? It hardly does anything. So, and if you look at it, it doesn't even claim to be a fluoride filter. I would say if you want to see some improved benefits and detox your pineal gland, your filter needs to at least filter out fluoride, because that is a really major contaminant, and that will affect your, it affects your brain, right? There's no two ways about it. The best way to clean your water is to distill it, because that water then is pure, and it's like a giant kettle. You put it in this kettle, the steam rises and then comes out, and there's nothing.
I've got one of those myself.
You've got one of those. Yeah, brilliant. So, but this is a bit of a pain in the neck for people, and it's hard to get into this flow. But what I found is it's quite interesting. I persuaded a lady to do this, and she had thyroid cancer and various other things. She had to go. This is her second round of actually getting this cancer, and I said, well, I'm not going to say don't do all of what you need to do now, but I will say that if you clean up your water, you're going to give yourself a much better chance, right? Okay, of recovering. So they diagnosed and said, right, we're going to have to do probably about 3 or 4 rounds of radiotherapy. And I saw her about 2 weeks before her first sort of scan. But she changed her water, she did, and she started to detox, which I'll tell you about in a little bit. And the same capsules that I used to pull out of my body. So she had her first round of radiotherapy. When she went back for a second scan, it's completely gone. And this has been longer than a year now, and she hasn't had to do all that stuff that they thought she'd have to do, because obviously her body was not coping. The good way of explaining this is, right, if you've got imagine a really dirty kitchen and it's full of like rubbish everywhere. Every single day, you're going to be putting more rubbish into that kitchen, right? Now, if you clean out less than you put in every day, it's going to build up. It's going to build up. And when you go to the doctors, when you start getting these symptoms and go, well, my kitchen's smelling, they'll give you an air freshener. Right, literally. You go back to the kitchen, this is an air freshener. And then you go back 2 weeks later, hey, how's it going? Well, it worked at first because I couldn't smell it. But it still hasn't solved the problem. Well, here's another air freshener, put 2 in, and then put an extra bin in. But really what the problem is your body's now, the way I see it, it's like you've got like a bucket, you're filling it every day, drip, 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 and eventually it goes over the edge and you start getting symptoms like, not sleeping well, or brain fog, or memory loss, or often skin conditions. This is a big clue. Skin conditions, by the time it's flared up on your skin, you're too topped up with toxins. And as you pull out these toxins, and basically you go into your kitchen and pulling out more rubbish every day than you're putting in, it'll go down. And then if you do go out and eat some crappy food, you won't react to it. All of those reactions are because people are full of toxins. And so this is where all the allergies come in. And what I've found is when you take that bucket right the way down to the bottom, you're no longer, none of these things trigger you anymore, because you're not in that inflammatory state. You haven't overwhelmed your system. But it takes time. And the water is your best way to do this. So the distiller, obviously there's a reverse osmosis system is another one as well. But again, I don't think that takes out your pharmaceuticals, or at least it's hard to prove, and no government funding wants to prove it one way or the other, right? So I think it's difficult.
Surprise, surprise.
No. But you know, you got to think about your vegetables. And like, I've got a lot of people, yeah, I'm drinking distilled water, but but because I boil my water, I'm having my cup of tea from the tap, and it's like, well, let me just explain. It doesn't remove the heavy metals, and boiling it doesn't remove your fluoride, and they're also going, well, I put my pasta and my rice, so all this rice and pasta is like, yeah, you've killed all the pharmaceuticals, but now we're all full of all the heavy metals or whatever else was in your tap water, because then it's what it is. So what happens is you know, you use something like a reverse osmosis, which is brilliant for your cooking and you're cleaning your vegetables and things like this, but drink your distilled water, and what you have then is perfectly pure water. And then what you can do is you can work from there. You can restructure it. You can add minerals to it. And this is the other important thing I say to people. We are very lacking minerals in our diet. The food that we are grown for us is grown in a soil that is devoid of minerals. So whilst when you're looking at an orange, I'm eating an orange, or I'm eating some cabbage and it's got these vitamins in, it's like, well, the theoretical cabbage has those vitamins in, but yours doesn't, because it's being grown on mineral depleted soil. I'm lucky there's a biodynamic organic farm just down the road from me, and I know mine has got all the minerals in. But this is where we've got to start supporting our farmers and stopping these in-between organizations that are just basically making our food look very nice, but it isn't very nice for us. But if you add Celtic sea salt, it's got 82 of the 102 minerals that you need. And a lot of people, disease is not only because they're intoxicated and you've got these heavy metals that are sitting in cells and in the machinery of your body, stopping your body from doing its job, basically healing itself. Not only that, but then they haven't got the building blocks. Like, if you ever played with Lego, right? Imagine you're trying to, I don't know, build the Millennium Falcon, and you've only got red blocks, you know, those red fours. It's like, you can't do it. So you've got to put the right minerals in. So if you get distilled water and then add Celtic sea salt, you've now got mineralized H2O. But the next journey on this, which is fantastic, that's great, right? But now we're on the whole advanced level, and maybe, I don't know if Jeff, or I can find the slides if that helps, Jeff.
No, can you tell me which one it is?
Yeah, the one about structured water, and it says advanced level, and you've got the way that water is absorbed by your cells with a lot of people are dehydrated, even though this is perfect, even though they drink a lot of water. Now, unstructured water, and the way that I'll describe it is this: water has polarity, right? There's a bit of positive and a bit of negative charge, right? And so you can remember at school when you were playing with iron filings and you had a piece of paper, and then underneath you ran the magnet and all the iron filings lined up in a nice row. The water's the same. When it's all clumped together, when you try and get it into your cells through these little ducts called aquaporins, it doesn't go into the cell very easily because it's clumped together. Water is not what people think it is, right? And it's all nicely flows and flutters around. It doesn't. It's in different phases. But when it's structured like this, it's very easy to go inside the cells. And that's why a lot of people will drink, because they've been told, I drink 3 or 4 litres a day. All you're doing is flushing out all the minerals from your body, if that's what you're doing. You are not hydrating yourself because you shouldn't need that much water. That's another myth. It's another myth. You need once your water's structured, you need a lot less water because it goes inside the cells instead of into this interstitial tissue and around your body and gone. So this is really important to know. So then people say, right, how can I structure my water? And this is a more sort of complicated question, but imagine what I've just said, that exactly like the magnets, and you can line them up under a piece of paper, you can do the same with water. And you see a lot of structured water involves devices where you're creating a vortex, so it's going round and around and around and around, and with magnets. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get these water to go up into what we call hexagonal water. And the water is structured water, hexagonal water. The way that the oxygen and the hydrogen associate together is different. So a lot of people think water's H2O, and it's kind of like, that's ladybird water. That's one type of water. Really, we want H3O2. And when we're talking about hydrogen cars and hydrogen fuel rockets and things like this, they're not talking about H2O. They're talking about much different bonds and associations. So we're talking about, you know, H3O5 and all these different ways that the hydrogen, the oxygen can formulate itself together, how it can create different bonds. So it isn't tap water that they're putting in these hydrogen cars, it's plasma water. And this water, if you look at like fruits and vegetables and meat even, this is structured water, right? This is structured. But so when you ingest water that isn't structured, your body then has to go, oh, I need to structure it. So because you're an electromagnetic being, you are electromagnetic, you can restructure this yourself. And this is why where the whole thing about praying over water and all this kind of, you know, this is what's happening. And it has been proven, if anyone seemed to see the Japanese professor, Dr. Emoto, proved that you could speak and basically you're not just the vibration of your voice, you're transferring your electromagnetic energy to that water and you're changing its structure. And you can do that. But how many people do that? How many people think about it? So this is why I'm saying that these waters, and I believe we can do all this ourselves, but kind of you've got to prove it to yourself first. And finding a way to structure your water, I'd say, is like advanced level, right? So before anybody gets like really worried about, oh, what to do.
Yeah.
Distiller, add Celtic sea salt, start there, right? And so many things will happen. Remember what I just said about that lady? And, you know, there's so many people I've worked with who the core thing that they've been doing, adding supplements, when we've taken that away and taken away the toxic things in their life, such as underarm deodorant with aluminium, you know, room spray to make your room smell nice, and all of this stuff, which is toxic, take that out, stop putting so much crap in your kitchen and start pulling more stuff out on a daily basis and be patient. And all of a sudden things happen. Like we were just talking before, weren't we? Yeah. One of my clients, this lady, you know, although I told you that magical story about, you know, she didn't have to go for all those other radiotherapy treatments. She now, because she's a Reiki healer, she now does Reiki therapy with her clients, but she tries to get as many of them on distilled water as possible. And the way she persuades them is by showing them her nails, because her nails are rubbish her whole life. But it's so obvious because she's got a picture of before and after. She's like, look at my nails. And for everybody, it's a different thing. They're like, well, I used to always, you know, get allergies with, you know, with the pollen. And now I don't get that anymore. And I used to have like pet allergies and I don't anymore. And I'm like, yeah, it's magic, isn't it? And it's because the kitchen isn't messy anymore. They like to, you know, your waste disposal system is your liver, your kidneys and your blood, and you clean it up and all of a sudden it can start doing its job, which is why kids, they, although they're on the tap water and all the same things as you, they don't suffer because they haven't built it up yet. But give it time. And you can see this drop off, I think, with children, or you can see a distinct difference. Well, this is what happened with my children. When I changed a few things happened. First of all, my cat, who had a cataract, her cataract cleared up magically. Wow. Just by cleaning the water. I also put some colloidal silver in for her, but she didn't really have much of that water, but she was drinking free water. That's why pets drink outside in the puddles, by the way, because they're not stupid. Not like us, they're not stupid. But my kids, their grades started going up, their focus started going up, their behavior changed. just by changing the water.
Wow.
And I've seen that, some, and parents don't realise this. They're, I'll talk about this one in a minute because this was another I have. I see parents absolutely frustrated because of the behaviour of their children, and they blame themselves, and they've got going through this whole cycle. And the system doesn't help either, because the system keeps trying to put all these behavioural definitions on children. And really, it's the food and the water.
Mm.
Change the food and the water, and you change your child, and you will change you. And it's such a and they don't teach this. They teach there's a label, and this is how you cope with that behaviour. It's like, okay, it's a shame. So actually, if you go back to that other slide, this is an interesting one. So, and obviously chirp in if I keep like rattling on.
No. I mean, you're full of information, and that's what we know a lot of things what are going on, and we know about making changes. And it's like, okay, well, what's the easiest, happiest, healthiest way we can help people to change? And affordably. I mean, I know distillers are about £80 or something like that. And I do put Celtic salt every time I go back, because I'm to and froing currently. Every time I go back, but I've been filling up plastic bottles, because I can't get massive, big glass bottles. It's too heavy to carry and to fill up. So anyway.
The practicalities of it are funny, aren't they? We had a conversation about that the other day, didn't we? So you go to a spring, which would be beautiful water, and then you have to carry it. And then you were like, I shouldn't worry about the plastic. And I said, look, for that short period of time, you don't.
Yeah.
But just because you've carried it there, do you have to store it in there? Because the best way to store water, if you have to store it, because storing water's not great, but you have to, right, is in glass bottles. And they're free. If you've ever drank wine, or you go to somebody else's bin and you clean them out,
clean other people's bins out, not your own.
I mean, you have to clear them out properly, and and then the other trick that I said, and so I'm going to go back a little bit on what I said about chlorine and chlorine dioxide is a version of chlorine. Chlorine dioxide drops is used to clean water, and it's got a lot of benefits. It cleans you as well, but that's chlorine dioxide, not necessarily the chlorine that goes into the tap water, right? And if you were to bring your water home and you were to put it into clean glass bottles, and you put 1 drop of chlorine dioxide per glass bottle, that would stay fresh for 3 months. And it's very refreshing. And it does have health benefits. I'm not saying put loads in, put 10 drops in, because you don't want to do that. So that's one method that I use when I want to distill water. So I'll do a batch of it. So I'm not doing it every day. I keep some in a copper jug, a zinc line copper jug, with some crystals in. I put some in bottles on a charging plate with some crystals and chlorine dioxide in, right? And then some I add, I put plasma water capsules in, which I'll show you in a minute. And some I put aqua in. So I do not have the same water throughout the day. I have different types. Oh, and I hydrogenize my water. All right. So I put extra hydrogen ions in it. So there's so many. Once you've got clean water, there's stuff you can do to level up. And this is what I'm trying to explain to people. Start with your water, and then start playing with your water, because you'll be really surprised at the effects that water can have. So that little slide that you had was about aqua, and I met Alex, we were talking there at the home. So this water, so this is how he's done it. It's structured water. Actually, if you go back to that slide, Jeff, that's kind of easier for me to explain, if you don't mind. So he's structured the water. So he's taken it from 2 springs and then collected it. But then he's put it in a glass container, and he's put neodymium magnets around the outside, because remember what I said. So this is now changing the structure of the water. So instead of all being higgledy-piggledy, it's now more structured. It then is transferred into another container with 2 double helices, one going one way and one going the other way. And it then is collected, and in there they're infusing the 5 to 8 hertz frequency, which you might know is your solar plexus chakra, but it's also the frequency of love. All right, it's how we communicate through love. And as you know, when you love something, there's nothing bad you can ever do. You can't do anything horrible with love, can you? It's like, it's impossible. So it's uncorruptible frequency. It's got 639 hertz, although I've written that wrong. That should be, 369 hertz Tesla frequency, although they're all similar, 369, they're all, if you know anything about sacred geometry, similar things, right? But I've got that wrong. And then the Schumann resonance. So these frequencies now are in the water. And if you remember Dr. Emoto, and I've probably got a slide just showing you the different, what water looks like when it isn't structured. And then they've got the gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So in this little bottle, there's one, you'll be able to find it if you go back a little bit, just while I'm speaking. It's got a picture of a horrible looking cell, hopefully. It maybe flick through. But, that one, yeah. So you can see there, look, if you look at this structured water, this was, which is what I'm saying about putting frequencies in. If you look at that before picture and after, this was taken out of a river in Japan. And if you go to Crystal Blue is a really great website which teaches a lot about water. They have a product to sell, but this is so accurate. It's a brilliant resource. And I really congratulate. I'd love to be able to meet those people. And the water looked like this when it was looked through a microscope before. But then after it's structured, it looked like a snowflake. Right, and this is, you can physically see this, and I'm really lucky. I'm going to be interviewing John Stuart Reid, who's invented a thermoscope, and I'm so looking forward to speaking to him, where you can see in 3D, not just 2D, the structure of water. So when we're having this aqua, we're restructuring the water, we're restructuring the water, and then we're putting certain frequencies in, which then have an effect on our physical body. It's also got gold, frankincense, and myrrh in. And the way that I take it, so it's like a concentrate, and all of that's in there. There's frequencies, the gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh, and I drop it into my water. I probably should have counted the drops, but I'm hardcore at this now. And myrrh actually acts as a detox. So myrrh helps a visual part of your brain function. Frankincense helps your pineal gland, and gold is the bridge. Well, what this whole product is doing is, at a cellular level, it's bringing water into your body with gold, frankincense, and myrrh in. There's a reason for that story, and these wonderful frequencies. So the way that this is a biohack. It's a wonderful biohack. You can't always feel love every day, especially with what's going on. But on a cellular level, I can feel love whenever I want to now. And it's got a very refreshing taste. And as you saw from the hum event, when people take this same thing together, they start resonating at that frequency. Just like, when you go to the pub and everyone's drinking beer and you're the only one who's not, and you're not on their frequency, right? This is a new way to get on frequency, and it's through water. And you find that when you're together, you you have all this feeling of like well-being and all this kind of stuff. But everybody's on the same wavelength. But not kind of, I don't know, put traffic cones on your head and just do stupid dancing kind of way. Just different kind of, a more different kind of wavelength. But of course, gold, frankincense, and myrrh all have physical health benefits. So, and this is very widely documented about how the anti-inflammatory effects, the effects of cancer treatments, have all been associated with all of these things. So there's nothing, bad's going to happen when you take this. But what I would say to people is, when they start on this is also a detox, right? So unless you've gone through some kind of detox before, take it easy. right? Because when you have a cold and flu and you're snotty, and right, this is your detoxing. When you're being sick, you're detoxing. Because it's got to come out somewhere. It's got to come out on your wee, your poo, your sweat, your saliva, your sick, your snot, your sweat. Sorry to be crude, but it's got to come out. And it depends on where it is in your body. And if it's in your brain, this is where it comes out of here. So take it easy, because I don't believe people have to detox and go through some kind of, terrible ordeal. But there are ways to do this, like Cambo and things like this, and coffee enemas and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, they work. But I kind of like the gentle approach. And so this is the capsules that I'm going to send to you with the dandelion root and milk thistle. So guys, I can't ship these out the UK because the government won't let me. But you can make your own. And the ingredients, if you go to my website and it tells you where all the links to all my channel is on my link fly. Go to my Telegram group. I've got Plant Power group where we share recipes on how to make natural medicine. Everything I tell everybody is available for free on everything that I do. I just also work with people one-to-one who just want that one-to-one attention. Yeah. But everything I've got is there. So the recipe is there. I'm not precious about this recipe. I've just gone to the trouble of making it, and that's just convenient for some people. Do you know what I mean? I haven't got time for all this stuff. I know how to make dish soap, and I've got castile oil, but do I get a chance to make it? No. So I'm going on the shops. So and then there's clean slate, root clean slate. Now this does ship. The reason why I started working with roots was because I knew I couldn't ship these out the country because the government wouldn't let me. So I started working with roots because it's drops as well, and some people don't like taking capsules. And I've found some really good effects with this, and people like taking this because it's very easy, because it's drops under your tongue or drops in water. And this is how you take it. You put one drop in water for a few days. You do it twice a day. And then
is this for detoxing as well?
Yeah. So root clean slate works a little bit like all the other silica based technologies. This has got also got vitamin C in. And how it works is a lot of toxins in your body are positively charged molecules. Where we're talking about plastics or aluminium or metals, whatever, they tend to be positively charged. So you want to put a negatively charged ion in your body so that it mops them up. So it's easy, positively charged, sticks onto it, neutralizes it, and then goes out of your system. So that's why a lot of these. So this is the other thing, just to get in people's head. I know it looks like these toxin removals seem to do a lot of different things. How can that be true? Well, it is because the root cause of a lot of these diseases are the same thing, toxins, which then cause inflammation, which then cause disease. So, and the toxins, generally speaking, are these positively charged molecules that you need to pull out. So it doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's a negatively charged molecule. And all these things like diatomaceous earth, bentonite clay, and all these other systems, they're versions of this. The reason why I like this is because it seems to me to pull out toxins that are in kind of hard to reach places of your body. So things like joints and ligaments, right? They're poorly vascular. So it's very hard to get supplements in there, and it's very hard to pull toxins out. So they tend to hang around for quite a long time. And so you need nanoparticles to be able to get in. And what these do is it seems to pull out, like if people have had joint pain, oh, I'm old, I can't get rid of it. It's like after they go through a detox, they're like, oh, it was just some toxins stuck in a hard to reach place. And so that's why I kind of like the root brand, because it's very easy and they ship worldwide. It's dead easy to do. And if anybody does start it and wants to ask any questions, I can really help with that. But none of these things should be taken lightly. Don't just go, right. Yeah. Well, I've had that with a friend before. I said to my friend, you are intoxicated. This is where your difficulty sleeping is. This is all linked to intoxication. Difficulty sleeping is usually an indication of intoxication and poor gut function. And they were like, I told them to ring me, and they forgot, and they just remembered the bit when I said you can get up to 10 drops twice a day. Well, after 3 days, they went through a pretty intense.
I bet.
And they didn't do that again. But
No.
it works. But you don't want to do that, right? I don't understand people. So they drank a lot of water, to try and mitigate that. And that's the other thing. You can't just pull toxins out. They've got to go somewhere. So you've got to flush them out. You've got to be kind to your liver. And that's why you've got to take these things slowly. Just take out more rubbish from your kitchen every day than you put in, and you're detoxing. It's a journey. It's not a, it's not a sprint.
It's like you see people with like fungy toes, and it's another way your body releasing it, either out through your toe. Well, I don't think you don't see people with fungy fingers, do you, so much as you see the odd fungy toe. Or
yes. Well, yeah, and this is the other thing, going on this learning about a lot of, right, this might gross people out, but most of the cells in your body are not human, right? They're bacteria, they're fungal, they're yeast, and most of them, should be living in harmony with you. And if they're not, this is where you get disease. And your gut is a really good example. And I've got videos of this on YouTube where I've got Matt Corns on, a friend of mine who's a biochemist, and we talk about this. But the long and short of it is, when you get acid reflux, people think it's an overproduction of acid from your stomach, right? It's not. It's the overproduction of acid from an overgrowth of yeast, because your stomach acid is not producing enough acid to kill the yeast. So what do you get? You get an antacid, which then doesn't help your overgrowth of yeast problem. And then you're on it forever. And people who are on those medications are on those medications forever. So your gut is the foundation of all of your health. And the way that I explain it is, inside your gut is like an army, and it's all sorts of regiments. They've got all sorts of different jobs. And, one job might be, pulling out, potassium out of a body, pulling out nutrients, like magnesium, and they've all got different jobs. Now, if your army is missing some of your regiments, then even if you're taking a supplement or eating the right food, the army is not there to bring it in to your body and do its job. So you need your full complement of army. And your gut will respond to your environment. So you keep giving it chips every day, and what you end up with is an army that's really good at, metabolizing chips. and that's it. And then when you start to eat healthy food, if your bacteria is not there because you've cooked it, and this is where this whole raw cooked food thing comes from, right? Because usually the bacteria associated with breaking down the food is with the food. But when you cook it or treat it or process it, then the bacteria that will break down that food is now gone. So you're putting it in thinking you're eating healthy, and really you've got no army. So this is where the raw food diet comes in, and how to explain that. And so when and actually, Jeff, that slide you had was really helpful on the gut. There's ways of putting good bacteria into your body, but please be careful of any scams, right? Because your stomach's acidic. There's more than one type of bacteria. There's lots of things I've seen there, like capsules and little yogurty drinks that are anything very popular. I'm always very skeptical of, right? Because it's got to get into your gut and not just your stomach. So it's got to survive that stomach thing. So things like kefir yogurt is very good for your gut. Kombucha, right? This is why kombucha is so great. Sauerkraut by apple cider vinegar. And boys, why old school beer and ale used to be good for you, but now all of that good stuff is all the fermented stuff is all being taken out, right? So, but it used to be, but it's not the same thing that people are drinking nowadays, and so maybe these microbreweries are better. So, putting out the heavy metals so it actually works, then putting the army in, and then giving it the right food. And then what's going to happen is your body will Oh yes, when we've got parasites, right? This is
Oh,
a whole.
we haven't touched them yet.
We haven't even got to those. But before we go into the parasites, in your gut makes about 80% of your serotonin, and that's mainly made out of the bacterial cells that are in your body. You don't really make it. Your good bacteria make it. Your bacteria that like eating chips don't make none of that stuff. they're just I don't know, just pointless from that point of view. They're good at digesting chips, but nothing else. But serotonin is so important for you. It travels up your vagus nerve into your brain. And I was just about to go all scientific then, but I'm not going to. Just think about that. It goes, it's into your brain. And if it's serotonin, this is endocrine. This is what we're talking about, endocrine system. So it's a hormone that tells your body, I'm awake, let's get stuff done. That gives you energy, gives you your motivation and all this kind of stuff. But when it's nighttime, that your signal, because your eyes are closed and it's not getting any light going in it, tells your brain in your pineal gland and the other glands are around here to turn it into melatonin. And melatonin has 5 benefits. And one of them is to make you relaxed and feel sleepy. One of them is for DMT, for dreaming, to go into the dream world, which I think is very useful for now. So anybody who doesn't dream often has not fixed their gut. They're not making serotonin. This is like a trick. If you're not making serotonin, either your pineal gland needs cleansing or you're not producing serotonin because you're not making melatonin. This is a big hint how you can tell. But then the other 3 functions are to do with cleansing your body. It literally sends a signal out going, right, everybody, she's asleep, so let's go and do deep cleaning. And they'll look inside cells and go, well, you look a bit dodgy, mate, and we need to wrap you off and send you home. The deep cleaning happens then. So if you haven't got enough serotonin, you won't make enough melatonin. And you can tell this because of, you will find you either don't sleep well, it just goes hand in hand, you don't dream, things like this. So a very good hint. And that means, your gut isn't right. The only other cause really of this is cortisol. Stress hormones stop the conversion of serotonin to melatonin. And this is why you can't sleep. not because you haven't got the right army of bacteria and your gut isn't there, or you're not taking in the right nutrients or whatever. It's stress is stopping you. So if you can think, so what I want to ask everybody today is to have a think if you've got any, allergies and irritable this and, inflammatory that. Do you also find it difficult to sleep? You can't remember dreaming? Now you understand why and why it's all linked together. And maybe you're on omeprazole or those kind of things, right? Which is not, because your bacteria in your gut, they're going to be competing with the yeast. And also the bacteria in your gut, in your stomach, they are like acidic environments. And I keep hearing this thing about people saying alkaline. Let me put alkaline water into my body. And I'm like, I don't know why you'd want to dilute the acidity of your stomach. I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense, because the bacteria that live there like the acidic environment. I do agree that you put things like bicarbonate of soda in water, it does cleanse your liver and can help you feel a lot better. But it doesn't make sense to me that you want to create an alkaline environment in your stomach because of what I've just said, right? Yeah, so balance of all things. So that was my bit of a rant about the gut.
Well, no, they say it is your brain, don't they? Yeah. Or some say it's your second brain, but I don't know. Well, whatever. But I know for me, I dream nonstop, and sometimes I wake up and I think, God, it's easier to wake up because I don't know what goes on when I'm wherever, but I sleep well and I do dream. I have done for years. So anyway, I've got a brownie point in there.
Yes, well done. That's good. And some people, and we have to remember that we're all different. So some people can cope with adverse environments when some people can't, and some people's genes are just different. So there's a particular gene, and oh my gosh, I completely forgot what the name of it is now. but it's the gene that enables you, or maybe it'll come to me in a minute, that enables you to clear out toxins from your cells. And you can either have both of them functioning, one functioning or non-functioning. And if you have non-functioning, it's a lot harder for you to detox. And if you've got one function, it's like, so you can have brothers and they'll be in the same environment, but you'll see one has got very sort of pudgy skin and inflamed and whatever. Oh, he's always a sickly child, and the other one isn't. And it's like, well, because of the genetics. So, but if you change the environment to a purer environment, then that child that's struggling will no longer struggle. They have to be more careful. It's as simple as that. So we all have slightly different versions of this. And so this is general advice. And I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, that's masses to cover on the water, and it's been, a fascinating subject. Because, like for myself, like I have a lot of lemon in my. So that's another good thing to have, isn't it? Is lemon? Yes.
Yes. So let's talk about that for a minute, because I had somebody talk about this, and so lemon water alkalizes the body. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little bit of science and anything. So lemon's acidic, right? And this is where people are like, assuming that when you take something that is alkaline, that means then it will alkaline your body, such as water. It's like, no, because why does lemon alkalizes your body? Because what happens is when it's taken into your body, when it's because it's acidic, it has more hydrogen ions. You're a battery, you're an electromagnetic being, and your hydrogen ions, your battery, is made in your gut, which is why your gut is your power center. Not only is your brain, it's your power center, it's the your start of your whole well-being and immune system and everything. So your hydrogen ions are here, and so your saliva should be slightly acidic. By the time it comes out the other end, it will be alkaline, because your body is you're powering yourself and using those electrons to power your body, well, those hydrogen ions to power your body. And that is the normal case of things. So I also have people like, doing the saliva and want the saliva to be alkaline. Actually, if you find your urine's acidic, you find your urine's acidic and your saliva's alkaline, you will be diseased. You will find that is a good sign that their electromagnetic field is not functioning the right way, because it's doing the opposite about what it should do. And you need to get it to flip. And this is why things like hydrogen peroxide and MMS, if you've heard of hydrogen peroxide and MMS, they're slightly acidic and put hydrogen ions in the water for this reason, because you want to try and get this flipped. So your electromagnetic field is now going the right way. If anything, it's going to get us banned, is this bit of the conversation, right, by the way. Yeah. So maybe they didn't hear that. So this is really important. All of this stuff that I'm talking about has a physical and an electromagnetic, metaphysical, quantum physical point of view. And so ultimately, we try and keep this in good nick, right? But the effects are also felt in the frequency, in the electromagnetic field, in the quantum field, and likewise the other way around. A lot of people, when they look at when disease happens, a big trick that somebody very clever told me, Vivian Shapiro, she's written a book called Crystal Surgeon, something that she got taught, and it's a really good tip. Whenever you get ill, look at what happened 3 months ago, because it's usually that thing. So there's been, you've got your physical, but then you've got your physical body, you've got your emotional body, you've got your psychological body, you've got your spiritual body, right? And they're all these different fields around you. If something's happened, like a stress or something like that, it affects these fields, which then in turn are represented in your body as something physical, or manifest something physical, but annoyingly not straight away. So you have to kind of go back 3 months, and sometimes most people can't remember. Now, when you're fixing the physical, and another way of thinking about this, when you start getting this thing happen to you, whatever it can be like a skin condition or something, right? And you're like, when did that start? And you'll go, well, I don't know, I started wearing a new perfume or something like that because you've forgotten what happened 3 months ago. But as you're itching, you are literally reminding yourself again and again and again of that trauma of whatever happened 3 months ago, right? Because you can't forget it because it's now physically manifested into something. And when you clear the physical manifestation with like, Aquan do an amazing cream for skin conditions, by the way. It's absolutely flipping amazing. And what it does is it takes that reminder away and stops making you put attention on that problem that you've got, and it helps you to heal it, right? And really that's what's happening, right? And this took me a long time to fit all these pieces of the jigsaw together, because when you look in the physical, it definitely looks like something's happened physically because you're doing that and then that happens and then that happens and then that happens, but actually it's more complicated than that. And if you realize that and don't just work on the physical, and that's why I like the Aquan, by the way, because it's working not only on the physical, it's working on the other fields around you. And this is where the new medicine is going to come in. It's going to start working on our fields, and all of our organs have different frequencies and different fields. Our body has different fields, and we can only do so much. So if the big thing to take away from today is sort your water out. Please.
Yeah, as simple as that, really.
Sort your water out, because when that is structured and not higgledy-piggledy, you can then, your intention can then structure this water yourself. And I've seen this a lot. I've seen people who are very powerful manifestors and people who are never sick. My boy's never sick. I'm really never sick. Why? Because the structure of my water is such that when I put my own electromagnetic fields and the information I want it in there, it holds, because it's not higgledy-piggledy. And this is what I've noticed, that people who tend to be able to hold their frequency and not be up and down emotionally and physically emotionally, their water structured. So that then holds. It's more crystalline, and it allows you to be and remain in a state of being more easily. This is where the biohacks can really help us. Little trick.
Wow. Right. Well, I know we've come up to, and I don't know what your time schedule's like. I mean, obviously, you know, you could touch on parasites if you like, but I know that's a whole another whole subject. So.
Well, the main thing that I want to say about parasites,
all
right, is everybody's got them. They're all over your body. When you create an environment that parasites don't like to live in, it's the best way to eliminate parasites. Taking a cleanse, like what I've done one recently, and I was quite pleased, actually, quite pleased with myself, because I did like the black walnut and the what's the other one? And black walnut and wormwood, which is a very strong one, and I didn't see anything happen. And I'm pleased, because that means that my detox capsules, which are also anti-parasitic, work, but also the structured water, because the parasites live, and their eggs really live in the spaces between the cells. So if you imagine that your cells are like you want them to be pumped up like a nice pump balloon, but if you stick them together, there's gaps in between, and that's your extracellular matrix. If the cells are a bit floppy, there's a lot. The parasites can go into the cells because the cells are a bit, floppy, basically, and they hide in and around. So when you structure your water, it's a lot more difficult for parasites to hide. Right? When your immune system is functioning because your gut's working, they see these parasites and they kick them out. So it's all about putting your body in a state that actually doesn't suit the parasites, because your immune system's working, because your gut's working, but what you get to a point is sometimes it can get overwhelming. So gut parasites are extremely important to remove because they're stopping your gut from doing the job of healing the gut. You see what I mean? So it's kind of around that circle. So these kind of foods can help clean your toxins in your parasites in your gut. And then when you have structured water everywhere, and nice cleansing water and a nice immune system, then that helps in other places. I mean, I see things about specific liver fluke and all this kind of fluke things, cleanses, and I'm sure that they're very good. But I would say for the beginner, this is where you start. Figure out and it's not a one-day thing, because you've got, if anyone's ever got fleas on the pets, it takes a few months of cycle of cleaning because the eggs are there. So you've got to flush, 2 months. And very interestingly, most people say start on a full moon and then do it for a month, not 21 days, do it for a month, right? And it's because the moon structures water in your body, but only if you go outside. And that's why they say, so the parasites don't live as easily in your body. They're a lot easier to get rid of. And Schuberger was a person that realized this. If you know Schuberger, he's the one who was describing hexagonal water, because he lived on top of I think it was like in the 1920s. It was like a 5th generational logger, and it was right.
Walter.
Yes.
German, Austrian.
Yeah. And he was right on top of this mountain. His 5th generational timber logger, well, wrong word, isn't it? Lumberjack type thing, right? And they had to get the logs down, and he figured out that when you put the logs and floated them down the river, which went, well, stream that went down the side of the mountain, when it was full moon, they floated more. Because the water was structured. And what he did was he created a flume, which was living water, where the water would go in and out, which is how you create living water naturally. And he was so successful that unfortunately corporations came in, deforested the whole thing, completely ruined the landscape. And he ended up spending the rest of his life trying to fight against, corporations being greedy and destroying habitat, but also about the benefits of structured water. Okay. So this is where you know that structuring your water will have a benefit. This is why it's all linked together. And what I love about the world that we're in now is science, engineering, spirituality, philosophy, and that's biology, and we're all coming together, and we're not seeing ourselves as different. And this is why I see my role here as well. They say I'm trying to take the woo out to go, actually, they were right. But I mean, explain it in science. If you don't like the woo, I'll explain it to you in science. But either way, it's the same. The out is still the same. I'm just using different words, so it's still correct.
Wow, fantastic. So, is there anything else that you'd like to share? Because I know we could go on and on and on. I mean, there's so much more to this, and maybe perhaps you come back another time and maybe just talk about parasites or whatever you feel would be more relevant at the time.
You're right. I could talk about this topic all day long, and I don't know what you wanted to do. I mean, question and answer session another time. People, please reach out to me. See my YouTube channel. Go on, go on to find me on my social media and everything that if you've got any questions about anything, or if anybody wants a one-to-one session, I can do this online, because a lot of people, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I just need some help. I'm getting on to the next bit. I'm worried about doing this, and should I do that? And I try and help as many people as I can. But sometimes I get overwhelmed with requests, and I just don't have the time to do it, which is why, I've got that. You can book a little slot with me, and I'll tell you an awful lot in 30 minutes, which will probably set you up for the next 6 months.
One other thing, what about pH strips? Do you recommend people get them to check their pH levels out?
Well, it is useful, but if you've got disease, I would check it out. But the answer's still going to be the same, right? Yeah. Fill your water, put some minerals in it, ideally structure it, and ideally hydrogenize it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Always going to be the same.
Right. Well, on that note, thank you so much. You've been mindful of it. Wonderful information, and so we've got all your details, and I just hope that helps people have a rethink of what they're doing and stop using tap water, because like you say, it's tap water and not drinking water. So thank you, Jo. It's been an absolute delight, and I don't think there's any questions or anything come up, Jeff? No. Right. Okay.
Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about everybody's wellness journey.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So thank you once again. And thank you, everybody, to listening. And same time, same place next week.
Okay. Very good.